What's up everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Emelyn Jade and I am currently training for 70.3 Ironman as well as my first HYROX, which I am probably doing right now by the time this video goes out. So for the past few weeks, I have been training for both 70.3 as well as HYROX, and I thought I would take some time to share some tips on how to balance training for both very different events. As you know, HYROX is pretty high intensity. It focuses a lot on speed as well as strength, and then you've got 70.3, which is kind of on the flip side, steady endurance type of event. So in this video, I'll recap some of last week's workout as well as share some insights and tips and things that I've learned that can help someone who is balancing training for two very different sports. So the first tip is to prioritize your key race. So for me this year, 70.3 Ironman is my key race. It's the one that I'd like to put the most focus on. That's why I've started training for it about 6 months out. However, because HYROX is coming up very soon, that's kind of taken priority for the past couple months because there's a few things that I need to improve on, aka my strength. So in terms of how I approached my training overall when it comes to very different events, and this doesn't have to be, two very different sports, it could also be different distances within a sport. So for example, a 5K, a 10K, a marathon, that could all be scheduled within various times in a year, but it's up to you to determine what's going to be your goal race so you can make sure that you're prioritizing your training to that goal race. So in terms of how I approached my training, it led to breaking it into these main phases. So the first phase is the strength phase, and this is the phase where I'm focusing on building power coupled with some easy runs, and I focused a lot of that in the month of December, and this really helped lay the foundation work in prep for HYROX. And then the second phase would be what I call the speed phase, and this is where I focus on building top end speed, my running economy, and overall performance. And so that was pretty much the big focus of this month, and that's actually going to continue all the way to March in prep for 70.3 Ironman. This tied in very perfectly with HYROX since it is quite a speedy race, so I thought it tied in very well in terms of how I put my training phase this month. And so HYROX is kind of like that milestone to see where my speed is going to be at. And then the last phase, which I call the endurance phase, aka 70.3 specific training, that'll actually start to happen around March and beyond, and this is where I really start to focus on the specifics of my half Ironman race. So there's obviously going to be a lot more cycling, a lot more swimming in terms of building up my endurance to 1.9K of swimming, as well as my running to build up to a half marathon. So I found that breaking my schedule into different phases helped prioritize my focus into what I'm adding into my weekly schedule. And so right now it's a little bit messy because I'm actually in a little bit of transition. I'm tapering in prep for HYROX, so that way my body is strong and ready to race, but at the same time I'm slowly bringing in cycling and swimming into the mix, but only as a form of recovery, making sure that it's very light impact and it doesn't get into the way of my HYROX specific training. So that's why the bulk of my focus of pretty much all of January and likely December was all running and lifting, because that's what HYROX is all about, strength and speed. And since we are so close to my first HYROX competition, Key and I actually decided to fit in one last simulation workout, and this is how it went down. HYROX workout number 2, let's go. I need the music to be a bit loud.
3, 2, 1, go. Good start.
Done.
So the breakdown of the workout that Kian and I did was to kind of simulate HYROX, but not be so intense that, you know, it put so much demand on the body, even though it kind of did because of the weight that we used, so much that I had to scale back. But the breakdown of the workout was 1,000 meters ski buy-in, and then went into 3 rounds of 40 deadlifts at 185 pounds, and then 30 wall balls at 40 pounds, 20 meters of farmer's carry at 50 pounds, and this was each, and we would do that 3 times, and then we would break up the deadlifts and the wall balls however we saw fit. So, you know, sometimes Keen would do 10 wall balls, I would do 5, or we would do 10 and 10, and we would communicate to see, you know, if I'm feeling tired, he would need to pick up the slack and vice versa. And so overall, I think it went really well in terms of our quick recovery. You know, he was able to do some of the reps while I was able to catch my breath, and same with him. I think when it came to the ski erg and rower, especially for me as a short person, it's really hard to generate a lot of power and hence meters. And what we did was split up the ski and the row as half and half. So I would do 500 and he would do 500. Now, at that moment in time, it felt okay. Like I had to be really steady, but thinking about the fact that I have to run before and run after, and then do a bunch of workouts after the skier, I think we're gonna transition a little bit more and then do less skiing and rowing. So I would probably do like 200 meters, he would do 300, so on and so forth. So that way we won't do too much work and we'll be able to recover faster. So we'll probably put in a little bit more effort. However, it'll be for a shorter period of time, which will allow us to catch our breath in prep for the next section of the HYROX race. In terms of the wall balls, they're actually starting to feel a lot easier. I do find that all the strength that I've been doing the past couple of months have been helping. I remember when I started doing wall balls in December, or I think it was like towards the end of November, I could barely do 14 pounds. I could only manage 10, even 10 was a little questionable, but now I can do 15 wall balls in a row, so I'm pretty confident in that. Can I do that much right after a run? I'm not sure, still TBD, but I am grateful that Keenan and I are able to alternate, so that way I can, again, catch my breath while he does some reps, and then I can go at it with a little bit more energy. The reason why we included deadlifts into this workout was because we didn't have a sled. So this is meant to mimic a sled push or sled pull and really, you know, use our legs to push off the ground as we deadlift essentially. Now, my form was really bad, so I wasn't able to do it properly, so much that I kind of hurt my back, and the running shoes didn't help because we were practicing in our running shoes, because that's what we plan on doing on the day of HYROX. It didn't give me enough stability in order to ground myself and prep for that deadlift, so I was really using my back instead of pushing off the ground with my legs. So then the following rounds after, I was like, you know what, we need to scale back the weight because 185 is not doing it for me. So when it comes to the sled push and pull, I do foresee that Kian will probably pick up the bulk of that stations, or those stations, and then we'll be able to hopefully be a little bit more equal on the other stations, just because I know for a fact that is probably going to be my weakest. And because of the fact that I struggled with the deadlift, I actually paid for it the next couple days. Which leads to my next tip is beware of overtraining. You know, sometimes when you're training for a lot of different things, there are times when I'm doing double sessions and some of it could be super demanding that, you know, I might be so into the weeds and just be like, I need to do this workout. But there are just those times where you actually have to listen to your body, be honest to yourself and say, can I actually do this? Because usually if you continue to push yourself and you're not paying attention to what your body needs, your body's gonna pay for it, your body's not recovering fast enough, and then it just becomes this like vicious cycle, which could lead to injury. So we definitely do not want that. Because I wasn't able to deadlift properly, my back was hurting the next couple days, and I did have a 5K time trial scheduled the day after, and so looking at that, I was like, nope, that's not gonna happen. I need to shift things around. And so in terms of my schedule, I pushed my 5K time trial to later that week, and then I ended up doing 7.5K on Thursday at an easy pace. Again, kept it really light, making sure I'm paying attention to my body in case it was hurting during my run. And then the following day on Friday, I did 5.5K. So I kept it on the very light end and it turned out to be more of a recovery run. Overall, it was okay. Like I managed, it didn't hurt at all. And then on top of that, I went to acupuncture. So I got a lot of work done on my back in terms of needling, cupping, and all that fun stuff. Towards the end of the week, my back was fully recovered. So that's a win. When something like that happens, you just have to know what your body can handle and just make sure that you're not pushing it more than it needs to be pushed. And knowing that at that time I was a week away from my HYROX race, I was like, okay, take it super easy, no need to push yourself. And so it was very important that I took all the necessary steps to take care of myself, which leads to my last tip, staying on top of your recovery as well as your mindset. When you're training for a lot of different things, it can be quite taxing mentally because you have to think about a lot of different things and the things that go into your training schedule, etc. But you just got to remind yourself to stay flexible because life can happen. And a shout out to Amber. She, reminded me to just take a step back, to take a look at the progress that you've been doing over the past couple months. Day to day, you can really get stuck on the nitty gritty and the details of all the things that you have to do. But also don't forget about the things that you are currently doing and the things that you've accomplished along the way that help you get to this moment. I think just taking a step back and giving yourself compassion, because when you're doing a lot, it can sometimes get frustrating. So being able to just appreciate everything that you're learning and celebrating all the little wins does so much to, your mental game. Again, you're training for different things. There is that risk of burnout. So don't be so hard on yourself when things don't go your way. Just chip at it day by day and look at the little wins, and it's going to help immensely. And so I thank you for that reminder, because I was definitely getting into that negative mindset. And so I just got to pull myself out to kind of see, okay, I'm doing a lot. I got to stay flexible and just give myself some grace. And so when it comes to recovery, just like what happened to me after my HYROX simulation, my body wasn't at the greatest shape. So again, have to pay attention to all the little things that help with your recovery. And on top of adjusting my training plan, I decided I need to do something that's light impact, but still be able to give me that aerobic capacity that's not just running. And I didn't really want to bike because, again, I wanted my legs to just relax and not do anything. So instead, I finally got myself to the pool, and I'm super proud because this was my first swim of 2025, and I totally forgot how much I enjoyed it. And also too, I was feeling amazing after that swim, because I think when I was working on my catch and pull, it actually forced me to stretch my lats, and it made me realize how tight my back was. So it actually worked out really well in the end. Not only was I able to stay on top of my cardio from a light impact workout perspective, but I was also able to stretch out the back, especially because when it comes to posture, I'm not the greatest. And so being able to swim and kind of open up the upper body was really good and super helpful. So I'm really happy and stoked that I finally made it to the pool. And it goes without saying that part of recovery is also to focus on the little things. So like sleeping and fueling, to make sure that you're keeping your body fresh and your mind fresh, because it does play a huge impact in the long run. So training for different races can definitely be a balancing act, especially if they're very different events, but it is definitely doable as long as you schedule them appropriately. There's that saying where you can do anything but not everything at once. So just remember to prioritize your key race and be able to schedule your training in phases, so that way you're not so burnt out or overwhelmed by everything happening all at the same time. And then to make sure you listen to your body and be aware of overtraining. And lastly, don't forget to stay on top of your recovery and mindset, because that's also going to help in the long run. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found some of these tips insightful or helpful. And if you haven't gotten a chance to, don't forget to comment or subscribe. And with that, I'll see you in a later video. Bye.